Service is the most important thing. You can have incredible food and be ruined by bad service, and you can have okay food and a spectacular service and people will keep coming back. The most important part of the restaurant business is building a culture where everybody respects each other. You empower them to make decisions at a table. I always tell my staff, the most important person in the kitchen is the dishwasher. Without a dishwasher, we're lost.
What would be the first business that you would start tomorrow?
What I might be thinking now, which is...
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we can discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and in self. Today, we have Abraham Salum, the founder of Salum Restaurant in Dallas, Texas. This year, he'll be celebrating 20 years of business, and he's recognized for OpenTable's Dining Choice Award of 2025. Abraham is a legendary chef, hosting events around the world and even cooking at the James Beard Foundation. Excited to talk with Abraham about his experience in the kitchen and around the world while developing in the incredible restaurant known as Salum. Thank you, Abraham, so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This is really special.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be talking to such a high degree chef. Normally, when I sit down on these podcasts and we're interviewing individuals and restaurant owners, none of them have as many accolades as you have, especially, when you brought up the James Beard Foundation. I had to do a little research. I was ignorant to it, but to realize how big of a testament that is incredible. Can you give us a little background about yourself, kind of how you built your degree as a chef, and how, as you're holding these events and as you're building your own pedigree, you're also developing the restaurant of Salum?
I was born and raised in Mexico City. I'm half Lebanese and half Italian. So Lebanese on one side, Italian on the other, and born and raised in Mexico. You're talking food is the most precious commodity that we have in all three cultures. You get together with family, all you do is eat and drink and have a good time, and it's fantastic. So I grew up with a mother who couldn't cook very well, but two grandmothers that cooked like the angels. Since I was kind of young, I knew that I really, really enjoyed being in the kitchen and I really loved cooking, but I went into marketing. I studied marketing in college, and then I said, no, I really do want to be a chef. So I went to culinary school, graduated from culinary school in Montpelier, Vermont in 1990, and then lived in France, Belgium, went back to Mexico for a few years, and then moved to the US in 2000. And then 2001, I moved to Dallas. It was very interesting, just a series of things that happened at the same time. And I ended up at a beautiful restaurant and worked there for 4 years. And then I offered the owner to buy it from her, and she said no. And I said, okay, then I'm going to do my own thing. We created Salum. Salum has a completely open kitchen. You see everything that is happening. The kitchen is the focal point of the restaurant, and it's a lot of fun. We change our menu every month. We have been doing it for 20 years. So I have, multiply 20 by 12, and you've got all the menus that we have, and it's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, as you well know, being a restaurant owner before. It's fun, but it's also really, really rewarding, meeting people and making friends. And if you're entertaining and you're pleasing people, nothing more satisfying than that.
20 years in business, which means you destroyed that 5-year threshold in restaurants, which is true, right? And people talk about 89% of businesses fail within the first 5 years, and I'm pretty sure restaurants are a heavy part of that statistics. Yeah. And not only running a restaurant, developing a restaurant, but you also developed your personal repertoire as that's happening. Can you tell me how you balance that, how you kind of work between the two of not only running the restaurant, making sure the employees are good, you're updating your 144 different menus that you've had since the creation of the business. So creating new menu items, developing that, but also the accolades you have of outside the restaurant, right? Being asked to cook at other areas. How do you balance those two?
Well, at first it was hard because, since I joke that it's a one-man show. It really isn't a one-man show. I couldn't do what I do without the staff that I have. And I'm lucky enough that I have staff that have been with me for 20 years. There's 3 people that have been here almost 20 years with me. So, that helps. Having people that you trust and that you can, because I think that is one of the hardest things in the restaurant business is keeping people, keeping the staff, and really making them understand that every time they approach a table, it's not them that's going to the table. It's the restaurant that's going to the table. It's my name. It's their name. It's our food. It's our business. And what you want is repeat customers. So give the best you can because you want those people back. And we are very lucky that we have clients of 20 years and they keep coming back all the time. And it surprises me. I don't think I've been to a restaurant as often for the last 20 years. So I'm very, very blessed that they do. They come and they love it and they keep coming back.
You definitely took one thing from your marketing training in school, which is that retaining the customer is the most important part.
Absolutely, absolutely. Service is the most important thing. You can have incredible food and be ruined by bad service, and you can have okay food and a spectacular service, and people will keep coming back.
Yeah, it's the combination of the two, right? It's really you got to embed that memory when they come into the restaurant. And it's crazy, Abraham. We've gone through very opposite paths, right? I actually started by buying my father's restaurant, and then I went into marketing and advertising after that because I realized there was some holes, and there was a lot of restaurants that just weren't getting the love and the systems they deserved internally to develop and grow. And that was the problem that I was looking to solve. When you created Salum, were you looking to solve maybe a problem in the local area, the type of food that was there? Were you looking to find a more open audience and a more open structure to restaurants? Did you have something in mind, or did you just want to create amazing food?
I wanted to create a restaurant. My idea was to create a restaurant where people could come on a regular basis. That it wasn't, we weren't going to do, food acrobatics, things that were just so out there that would be a lot of fun to do, but it wouldn't be sustainable. So for me, it was all about the restaurant being sustainable. I said, if it's here 10 years from now, I'd be really happy. I never imagined it would be 20. And I do joke, and you'll understand this, being in the restaurant business is like, you have to multiply like dog years by 7. So because each year, and especially probably the last 10 years have been really, really, really hard, since the downturn in 2008 and then the pandemic. And then we had a flood and it destroyed the restaurant 2 years ago. It was the roof flooded and it came through the ceiling and it's sheetrock. So it was completely destroyed. So it was very frustrating and it was very sad to see. I lost my mind that day. Because it was gone. The restaurant was destroyed. And thank God we were able to fix it up and open in a few months. So we did okay. But yeah, I think the most important thing in creating the restaurant was that I wanted to do my type of food, something that was approachable, that was easy to understand, but good, that it changed often, and that people would feel comfortable coming in. So, and I know that for some people, the menu changing every month is kind of difficult because you like something and you want to have it again, and it's gone and it won't come back. So
Yeah, but I mean, what you said earlier is a testament to that. Like, what other restaurant do you know that you go every single week or every month for 20 years? You just don't do that. But because people know that you'll change their menu, it's got to be this sense of
yeah,
excitement and a sense of mystery of what are we going to get the next time we go to Saloon. That's beautiful. I want to touch on a point that you brought up a little bit earlier because my next question really dives into, what is the uniqueness of your business? And you've mentioned a few things now. You've mentioned that, you have a rotating menu, not rotating, I should say, changing menu. You're changing menu consistently. And you're also having the open kitchen aspect, which is awesome. I love that. I love the transparency. I think people deserve to see how cooks actually function. But I think you brought up something before all of that that even hits the nail more on the head, and that's the development of your culture. The way that you're actually structuring the environment of your restaurant to ensure your employees don't leave, to ensure your customers are coming back, to ensure that everybody from the hostess to the chefs in the back are embodying what Saloon really is. Can you talk to us a little bit of how you built that culture within your restaurant?
well, basically, I mean, the most important thing was out of respect. Everybody deserves respect. I always tell my staff the most important person in the kitchen is the dishwasher. Obviously, without a dishwasher, we're lost, and nobody wants to wash dishes. And it's a very noble job. It's hard. It doesn't pay enough. Uh, it- I mean, there's a lot of things that are not good about it, but they are necessary and they are a super important part of our restaurant. So I think it's just mutual respect. And when I hire someone, I say, I really do not like drama. I don't like dealing with drama. And the restaurant business has it already. It's already there because you don't know who's going to walk in the door. If they're in a good mood, if they're in a bad mood, if they got in a fight, if they are celebrating, if they're mourning, you really don't have no idea who's going to walk in the door. So you have to be prepared for everything. So if we all respect each other and we all treat our guests with respect as well, then things work out fine. In I think I've worked in environments where it's not pleasant you don't want to go to work because there is somebody who is not not a nice person, or they don't treat you well, or they speak to people in a way that they shouldn't. Um, and that's the one thing that I said, that's unacceptable in my restaurant. We need to build a culture where we all respect each other. We like to work together, and we the most important thing, like I said, is bringing our customers back again and again and again.
Restaurant owners and entrepreneurs listening to this right now, you gotta take that in deep within your soul and have a clear understanding of how Abraham is enacting that in his business. Yes, trust is a huge factor, respect is a huge factor within the business, but to develop the culture, it takes consistency, it takes determination, it takes drawing the line in the sand. And if you kept your employees for 20 years, you understand what it is to really build that culture. If you're a restaurant owner right now listening to this and you hear, your servers, talking bad in when they go in to pick up food on the expo line, and you're hearing the chefs talk bad to the servers, if you're hearing any type of mumbling in the back room when people are laughing at each other, the culture of the system is broken. And I've probably worked in over 20 different restaurants after my father's business, and I was hopping around from restaurant to restaurant, and 95% of them have a horrid culture. I mean, something that, as you said, it makes you hesitate to want to come into work.
Oh
So,
yeah, you in lack of respect between employees, and then it causes all kinds of problems. So yeah, I think the most important part of the restaurant business is building a culture where everybody respects each other and they feel you empower them to make decisions at a table. And they're I tell them all the time, you are me when you're going to the table. You are the restaurant. You represent the restaurant more than I do when you're at the table and serving people. So make sure that it's impeccable. Make sure that it's as good as you can.
I love that. Hey, Brent, I have to ask you because my mind's running now with your background in marketing and now running the restaurant for over 20 years and having the success you have as an individual. Is there any marketing tactics or anything that you do inside a saloon that is unique to make sure that maybe that you're the way that you acquire customers and the way they make you retain customers? Are you doing anything unique there? I always refer back to an interview with Gary V and the guy from Bar Rescue. Can't remember his name at the current moment. But the guy from Bar Rescue talking about uniqueness that managers can do to ensure when a new customer comes in, they feel a little bit unique so they come back for a second and third visit. Is there anything that Saloom's doing specifically to ensure that customer retention, or is it just based on making sure they have an incredible
You
experience?
know what? I think it's based more than that people have an incredible experience, but it's also uh, letting the servers be themselves. And I know that every single one of them is different. And they talk to people in a different way. They react a different way. Even their body, the motions of their bodies are different. And I can tell when somebody's a little stressed and they are, a little stiff, or when they're having a great time and they're talking to the table and everybody's laughing. So I let them do that and really create just a tranquil, fun environment where they can, people feel comfortable and feel comfortable with the server. If you look at our OpenTable computer and you look at every reservation, most of them have request someone. They have the service they request, and they request them again and again. And some people don't care where they sit in the dining room as long as they've got the waiter that they want to wait on them.
How powerful.
So I think that's amazing. For example, one of the things that I did tell him, um, being English my second language, so I was born and raised in Mexico City. Um, One of the things that I always thought it was a little strange in English was when people say no problem. When you say can you do this for me? No problem. To me, it always sounded like it could be a problem or there is a problem, but it's okay. I'll let it pass. So one of the things we don't say at the restaurant is no problem. That is the one thing that, and they kind of thought it was funny at the beginning, but I said, how about if you say something positive? Yes, my pleasure. Of course, I would love to. I go, emphasize the positive instead of no problem. Don't use the word problem because you don't know if there was a problem with them or there could be. Um, and that it's really funny because at first they would make fun of me. Yes, of course, chef. My pleasure. Whatever. It's like stop making fun of me. But then they understood.
Yes. Yeah.
It sounds better.
It's speaking in the way of positivity. It's bringing back that marketing knowledge that you got when you did the courses throughout college, right? It's putting the customer in a position of, as you said before, tranquility and happiness, and doing that with positive terminology, positive word. And I think that all alludes to transparency and the openness that Saloom has with the open kitchen, and the fact that the servers are being how powerful is that? Think if you were a restaurant owner right now and you started getting reservations and you saw that you had multiple of your servers being requested specifically to sit down, you know that you are making a culture and an atmosphere that is inviting people back because of the people and the food. And that food, it's got to
Yeah.
come together.
And we have people that are coming for the first time and they'll come walk in the door and go, "Hey, can I request Mary?" "Mm, Sure. Have you been here before?" "No, but my friend such and such told me that if I came to dinner, I needed to request Mary because she's the best." I'm like, "Okay, Mary's yours." you know?
I
And
love that.
I go to Mary and I said, "Hey, this table," I tell her the story. This is what, and Mary comes up to them like she's known them all of her life. Um,
And again, I want to make sure to hit this point home. That is culture development. That is culture development. Good, strong culture, right? That's developing a system where the people are happy to be there and it represents all the way to the table. So let's get into some learning lessons. I would love for you to distill some knowledge to our listeners here. Obviously, you have a pedigree of not just being a chef, but being a restaurant owner and an entrepreneur. When it comes to the development of who you are and where you are in the business, is there any trials or tribulations? Obviously, you mentioned one previously of a few years ago having the flood and having to go through that and rebuild. But is there any learning lessons that you can distill with our listeners right now? Anything that you've taken over the last 20 years of being a restaurant owner and X amount of years of being a chef that you would want to distill to listeners? Let's say they're starting a new restaurant or they're a restaurant owner and they're struggling and they need help. What kind of advice would you give?
well, I mean, I always joke that do you know how to make a small fortune in the restaurant business? You start with a big one. Um, because I think the hardest part, what has made us very resilient is, I mean, besides all the things that have happened, the flood, the COVID was really hard on everybody. As we all know, it was hard on everybody. Um, we opened a second restaurant in 2010, and I was very naive in thinking that if I put them side by side, I would be in one place at a time. Well, if I wasn't in there, I wasn't. It didn't work out that way. I had to be there all the time to make sure it worked. Even though the restaurant worked really well, it didn't have the longevity of this one. And that was really hard on me. And it shouldn't have been, because it was just a business. It was one thing. I mean, if you read stories of great entrepreneurs, not if they made it really big, they made it with one thing really big, but they must have had another 10 that didn't work. And I had one that didn't work, and I felt like I was a complete failure. And it wasn't that, but it took me a while to understand. We with that same restaurant, we had a dram shop case at one point, which was incredibly hard to deal with. We ended up doing well, and we didn't have to pay anything or do anything. Our attorneys were very good, but you know what a dram shop case is, right?
I'm not familiar.
Dram shop case is when somebody comes into the restaurant. Somebody came in inebriated, left the restaurant, and had an accident, and somebody died. But he did not drink at the restaurant. It was just no.
It was way to serve them. Okay. So you did the right thing, but unfortunately,
Yeah, I mean, he was served a tiny little bit of wine, which he did not touch. But the attorneys went crazy with it, and it was really hard. But what made it easier was all the support that I had at this restaurant at Salum with the people that were here. So even though they knew what I was going through and how I was just losing my mind, they were a big support. So that was really good. Um, Other than that, I mean, it's just people. Have you heard people still say things like, "Oh, we have a little bit of money. Why don't we start a restaurant? It'd be good business." Well,
yeah, not so much anymore. Yeah.
not so much anymore. But people still think of things like that, and it's. I think everybody should work in the restaurant business at some point. You should work in the restaurant business for a few months at least, and that way you will understand what dealing with people is, what customer service is, and how special it is to learn how to deal with people, because it'll help you in whatever you end up doing.
Yes, and the work ethic that develops, right? I have a 1-year-old little daughter, and I always say that I either want to raise her on a farm or in a kitchen because in one way or the other, she's going to learn the difficulties of you need to get the food out. You burnt yourself, doesn't matter. You drop the plate, doesn't matter. It does not matter. You need to get the food out. You have to be able to supply the customer what they came through the door for, which is food. They need nourishment, and you have to be able to supply that. And I think it's at least in my timeline of being raised in a restaurant and then buying one myself, it was the one thing that I always put back on my bulletin board of where my work ethic came from was being there and working and being able to execute and get everything done throughout the day. I have to ask you, Abraham, today, right? You've been 20 years, you run the kitchen. Do you have a sous chef that runs the kitchen for you now? Are you in there daily? Are you doing an expo? Like how does your day by day look like?
Well, I'm here most of the day. I come in early and I leave closing, but I am taking more time off, so I can take Wednesdays off now and Tuesday night. So I go home early on Tuesdays to have dinner, and then Wednesday I'm off all day. And I do have a sous chef that's been with me for about 8 years now. And it's really, I think the hardest thing for me was to let go. That was one of the hardest things because I always thought if I'm not doing it, it's not going to get done right, and that was the wrong mentality. You have to delegate. You have to trust people. Build a team that you can trust, and let them do their thing. And if it changes a little bit from what you do, it's perfectly fine. It's not a big deal. You want things done a certain way. You teach them how to do it, and then they deviate a little bit, or they try to make it a little bit better. You taste it, you see it, it works, fine, good, and you tell them, "Thank you very much for doing this for me." Um, and But yes, I do have a chef, and I have a front of the house manager who's been with me for about 10 years, and she's fantastic. She's my work wife and my boss, basically. Um, but it's it, that I think that was the hardest part for me. The hardest part,
The separation to be able to
yeah,
trust and give up.
exactly, to be able to feel I don't need to be here tonight. It's okay. I can take the night off. I went to Saturday. I went to a brunch with some friends, and and we had a little too much to drink. And then at 6 p.m. they decided that they wanted mussels from Salum. So I called Rachel and I said, "Hey, can you set a table for 8?" And she said, "I don't have room." It goes, "Oh, come on, set a table for 8." So she did, and we all came over and had mussels, and then left. And I I said, "I'm sorry, I've had too much to drink." I said, "It's the first time I've ever come to my restaurant after drinking, come to work." And she's like, "Well, you're the owner. You can do it once in a while." I'm like, "You know what? Once in a while, it's okay."
It's that little bit of freedom, right? It's that ability to kind of let loose. And it's for all the restaurant owners out there, especially if you are a chef and you started your restaurant to cook food because you want to give amazing food to the world. I can guarantee you're resonating with Abraham right now. I can guarantee that you're sitting there like, man, I wish I could find someone I could put trust in. The first step to finding someone to put trust in is to start trusting people. You have to start giving that opportunity, giving a little bit of leeway. You have to be able to give the opportunity for them to mess up a little bit, right? You got to give them opportunity to find themselves inside the kitchen. So
Yeah. And talk to your servers, for example, when you have an issue, because there's bound to be issues in a restaurant. There's bound to be some food is so subjective. What I think is incredible, you might think it's terrible. You never know. So empower your servers and your staff to deal with issues and to try to solve them, and then come to you when they can't. But let you know. So I tell my servers all the time, let me know if there's a problem with something, but I'll let you deal with it. And if you can't at some point, then I'll step in, because people change when it's the owner. The attitude changes completely.
ours.
Yeah, but so I mean, we don't have a lot of issues, which is really incredible.
And again, I'm gonna put it back to the culture, right? There is
It is.
out of all the restaurant owners I've talked to, the ones that are having the most fun in their business, the ones that enjoy their life, the ones that are going day by day and want to be in their restaurants, are the ones that built the best culture inside their business. So Abram, I got to ask you, we've kind of gone through now a little bit of your timeline, your repertoire, what you developed the last 20 years at Salum. Where does it go from here? Are you going to open up a second location again and try your hand at that? Or are you just making sure that the Salum location you have now is the best possible? What does the next 3 to 5 years look for you?
I am very close to 60. I'm going to be 58 this year. So I am going to keep Saloon going the way it is for now, and hopefully retire at some point and do something a little bit different. Um, I don't know exactly what it looks like. I have some ideas. It'll involve traveling and food. Um, but I'm looking into doing something a little bit different, and I think it will be a lot of fun, and I won't have to come to the restaurant every single day. Um, but I don't I don't know. We're just starting to think about it, you know?
I love it. Let me ask you this. If your sous chef, your current sous chef came up to you and asked the same question you asked 20 years ago, hey, can I buy this restaurant from you? If he asked you the next 3 to 5 years, would you have an interest in that? Would that be something that you want to do?
I would absolutely.
Okay, I'll make sure I'm gonna forward this podcast to him and tell him to ask this stuff the same.
That if it's something that you would like to do, absolutely. And I would probably stay on for a few months to make sure that everybody knows and just do a seamless transfer of what it is. It won't be in the next year or 2 years probably, but you never know.
How beautiful though, to be able to work with people for decades, right? And be able to really nurture them and put them in a position of success and then take the next step. I love that. So I got to ask you, this is my favorite question of the podcast. And it's especially for someone like yourself, right? Where, I personally have studied Michelin star chefs for a while now. I understand mise en place and how to put that into your day-to-day practice. If you guys haven't heard the word mise en place, read the book, Work Clean. It's a great breakdown and an understanding of how the ideology of Michelin star chefs can be used in day-to-day business to help organize your life and your efficiency, right? It's extremely powerful, right? So for you, Abraham, I normally ask, how do you find your Kaizen? For the listeners out there, Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% progression every single day in both business and self. But for you, I should ask, how do you find your mise en place? How do you organize yourself? How do you organize your day? What are you doing to stay at, like you said, just short of 60? How do you stay on top of the constant changing trends when it comes to marketing and advertising for restaurants, your constant changing menu to ensure that you're always producing good food, and then staying on top of the culture so that as you have new employees come in or you have something happen that it stays on top of it, as well as keeping yourself sane and happy? How do you find that balance?
Well, first of all, I've never been the type that thinks that I know everything. So there's always something to learn. There's always something to learn if I go to eat at somebody else's restaurant, if I go travel around the world and see an ingredient that I've never seen before. And that just makes me crazy. It makes me giddy like a little kid, just, finding something that I've never seen before. A few years ago, I was in Colombia, in Bogota, Colombia, and I went to this restaurant and they gave me the menu and, Spanish is my first language. I look at the menu and I go, I don't understand a word of this. And it's in Spanish. I said, I've never heard of any of these ingredients because they were ingredients from the Amazon. Um, so just being open to learning things. I have a guy who does amazing social media. He only does all the social media for me, but he's amazing. And I told him I can't do it because I really don't know that much. I've been educating myself on how to do certain things, but I'll leave it for somebody that really knows how to do it. And he kept us going through the pandemic. He really did. I have to give him 100% of the credit because we switched so quickly from not being able to serve in the restaurant to doing to go and deliveries, and we became the drivers and we drove all over the state of Texas to deliver food, and it's crazy. We were so busy during the pandemic that it was amazing. It was thanks to the social media that if I had been doing it by myself, I don't think I could have. So it's perfectly fine to say, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know about this type of food, or I don't know about, but I am always open to learning. And I think that makes all the difference in the world in your business. Surround yourself with people that do know, create a good restaurant culture, and be kind to your people because I spend more time with them than I spend more time at home.
Super, super powerful. And you guys, again, restaurant owners, entrepreneurs, listen to this right now. Start taking notes. I mean, this is a gold nugget filled podcast that really comes from someone that's in the grind, doing it himself. Like he said, he's taken a day and a half off max throughout the week. His restaurant's open almost every single day. He's there. He's involved with it. He's building the culture. He's structuring the terminology that they're using for the tables. He's really, I mean, Abraham, you really set yourself in a position where you're not only an amazing chef, but also a restaurant owner and an entrepreneur. And there's a big difference between those two. There's a lot of good chefs out there. There's not a lot of good business owners, right? So
Some incredibly talented people. It's amazing. And the way the food scene has changed in the United States in the past 20 years is insane.
yeah, the chemistry and the alchemy that's coming into it now, and how they're setting up dishes.
But also, I don't know if you've seen this, but I also think that we're going back to having regional cuisines that had kind of fizzled out. We became so efficient in transporting things across the country that we have such a massive country, but we would be we were so good that everything was industrialized, that everything was, and that was the modern food. It's awesome to see that now the modern food is in Spain they call it a cocina de proximidad. It means a kitchen of proximity. It means if I can get the tomatoes around the corner versus having to get them from El Paso down, 5 hours or 8 hours or 10 hours away, I'll get these. I'll get things from as close as I can. And I think it's absolutely beautiful because there's been this resurgence of all the ingredients that were kind of forgotten a little bit or people were not cultivating. And now it really is. I think we are definitely becoming a powerhouse when it comes to food. And we weren't that 30 or 40 years ago.
I couldn't agree with you more. As someone who's traveled a good bit and who's a super foodie, like everywhere I go, I'm trying the cheapest place, the most expensive place, and everywhere is in between. Is just to see the difference in the food. The American cuisine 10 years ago was not what it is today. You can find spots now that are just extraordinary. I mean, truly extraordinary. I mean, true pasta in the U.S. 10 years ago wasn't pasta, right? Like it was hard to find a good quality pasta, but now things are definitely changing. I got to ask you this question. This is a bonus question, and I don't ask everybody, but be the last one I ask you. But I'm very, very curious. Have you ever read the book Atlas Shrugged?
Yes.
Okay, so you know the concept, right? The fact that for the listeners out there, the book Atlas Shrugged is a book that breaks down that us as business owners, you listen to this right now, Abraham, myself, us owning businesses actually moves the world forward. If you have an idea and you have a concept and you enact it in a small grouping, it doesn't change the world. It may make you money and things of that nature, but until you get into a business practice with operation structures and scalability, you don't actually get to move the world or change the world. So my question to you, Abraham, is if today Atlas Shrugged, and we all walked away from our companies. You walked away from your restaurant. I walked away from my marketing agency, all the home improvement, whatever it is. The facilities are still there. All the brick and mortar things are still there, but the world is open. It's an open oyster for you to be able to do whatever you want with it. If that happened today, Abraham, what would be the first business that you would start tomorrow?
Um, what I might be thinking of doing now, which is I would like to create a business where I can have people travel with me to eat, to experience things, to take them to the markets, take them because I'm so fascinated. There was let me tell you a very quick story. My husband and I went to Japan a few years ago, and of course, like it always happens. You marry someone who is opposite to you. So I married somebody who's a very picky eater, and I will eat anything you put in front of me. I will try anything at least once. So we were in Japan and we were at a grocery store and they're getting out samples of food and I'm trying all these different things and Rain's go, "What is that?" Well, I don't know. What does it taste like? I go, "Fish." I mean, it was just like. So then what I did is I went back to the apartment that night and I started researching everything that I have. It's like, oh my God, what I tasted was this and this, and this is how they fabricated. And so I would love to be able to take people to different parts of the world. I would start based obviously with Mexico first because there's a huge misunderstanding in the United States what is Mexican food because we're so used to calling it Mexican food and it's really Tex-Mex and that's a completely different thing. It's an American regional cuisine. Mexican food is the food of a country, and every single state in Mexico has a completely different cuisine because it depends. They are very regional, so it depends. If you're on the ocean, you'll have more seafood based, and if you're in inland, you'll have more meat based. So I would love to be able to walk away from the restaurant and then take people to travel and visit and see the food and try to show them through my eyes what I envision, because it's just, I mean, food is it's what drives my life, you know?
I can already see it. It's like a chef tour, right? You go down to Mexico, you initially meet at your favorite restaurant, you all come together that night. The next morning, you guys meet early, you go to a farmer's market. Yes, pick up local foods. You cook that night for everybody with your expertise and your experience. The next day, you go to a nice, beautiful breakfast place, and then maybe you wait. One day is seafood. The next day is
Maybe we do a cooking class at some point,
right.
something like that. So I think that would be, because it would combine the two things that are the loves of my life, which are traveling and food. I mean, my parents used to make a joke that they would ask me what I wanted for dinner before we sat down for breakfast when we were off from school. And my mom would say, it's because I know that you've already thought what you want for breakfast and lunch. So we're just trying. I plan my life around the meals that I'm gonna have.
Yep. My wife gives me the same thing. We'll go on a trip and she's just like, yeah, I have some stuff planned where, I have these blocks for food. You let me know where we're going for food because I'm in the same boat. Abraham, I honestly love it. Go ahead.
And it's wonderful. It's wonderful because there's nothing more important than being able to, I mean, or for me, there's no greater pleasure than being able to share my food with the people that I love or the people that I'm just with. It doesn't really matter, because you meet people with food, and you share. And really, the art of the chef, a lot of people say we're artists. I think we are artists in a way, but the most important lesson that I took was that we are sharing who we are. Every single plate that I put in front of you is an expression of who I am. And I'm hoping that you like it. And if you don't like it, it's as easy as tell me and I'll fix it while you're here.
I love that. Abraham, you got me sold. I'll be actually in Dallas, Texas a little bit later this year, and I will try my best to come into Salum. I am
Would love to see.
infatuated by the concepts that you've put together, the dedication you had, and just the empathy, the love, the animation that you have behind your food and how you want to serve the people in your local area. Help me out. If there's somebody in the Texas area, specifically in the Dallas area, how could they find you? What's the best time to come in? Should they make a reservation online? Give us little details of how they can.
They can make reservations on OpenTable. We're open for lunch Monday through Friday, 11:30 to 2:30 p.m., and we're open for dinner Monday through Saturday, 6 to 10 p.m. We're closed on Sundays, but we'll open the restaurant for a private party or a baby shower or whatever you want to do. But yeah, either give us a call or make a reservation online on OpenTable or on our website, salumrestaurant.com. And we would love to have you. And if you mention the podcast, I will do something a little special for you.
Oh, I absolutely love that. And that is 4152 Cole Ave 103, Dallas, Texas. If you guys are in the area, make sure you go check it out. We're going to have all of Abraham's information as well as Salum's details below in the description. If you guys have watched this full video, thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And Abraham, thank you so much for taking your time out of the day. I know you guys are probably prepping behind you and you're getting ready for the dinner rush.
It's my pleasure. This was so enjoyable. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, Abraham. And for the listeners, thank you guys. We'll talk to you guys soon.